Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Exploring the World with the Del Potato Sisters.
Today's episode is going to be all about
mushrooms! Actually, we are going to talk about several types of fungi and then go specifically into mushrooms.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Before we do our That's Crazy fact for today, we would like to introduce a guest in today's episode.
Yes, our guest is a professional mushroom forager and plant forager.
His name is Bryan Jessop.
Mr. Bryan loves nature, and what better job than mushroom and plant foraging all day in nature?
Mr. Bryan has a business called Morcella Wild Foods.
He supplies all plants and mushrooms to restaurants like Lazy Bear in the Mission District of San Francisco.
Mr. Bryan also prioritizes ethical foraging. He only takes 10% of the mushroom patch and the vegetation. He doesn't pick Amanita mushrooms because they are hard to tell from poisonous mushrooms called the dead caps. Even though he knows how to tell the difference, he doesn't want to popularize them because novice foragers might also make mistakes when picking them.
A fun fact about Mr. Bryan is that when he finds some mushrooms, he will peel off the dirty parts and bury them.
Mr. Bryan does this so other foragers can't find his secret spots.
What is our That's Crazy fact for today, though, Rhea?
Well, did you know that scientists believe there is actually enough gold on Earth to cover it?
What?
Yeah.
Actually, now that I'm reading up on this, there was a research done by Professor Elliott and Dr. Wilbald.
They started with 4 billion old rocks from Greenland.
They then studied these rocks and compared them with our current rocks.
They found a difference in isotopes.
Quick definition for our listeners. An isotope is a variant of an element that has the same number of protons, but a different number of neutrons.
Gold is a siderophile, which means that it bonds with iron. During Earth's early formation, the planet was molten, and elements like gold, platinum, and iridium mixed with iron. As the iron separated and sank towards the center, the metals moved with it.
This process is also known as planetary differentiation.
This locked most of the Earth's gold in the core of the Earth, leaving only a little bit in the crust.
Before we go into our interview with Mr. Bryan, let's talk about some of the different types of fungi.
Let's start with mold.
Listeners, have you ever seen some white, weird, furry stuff on your fruit and other food? This is mold.
Most mold feed on dead plants or animals, which helps to recycle the nutrients.
Other types of mold attack living things.
Mold starts by producing millions of spores that are so small they float everywhere in the air.
Mold is made out of threads called hyphae. These threads grow into decaying organisms and break them down. At the surface of the organism, the hyphae make small cases filled with spores.
The spores cases turn from white to black as the spores ripen. Soon they burst and release spores into the air.
Lichen is also another type of fungi.
Did you know that lichen is actually 2 different organisms just living together? They are physically woven together. The 2 organisms are fungus and the other is alga.
Wow, there are 20,000 known species of lichen.
What is really fascinating about lichen is that they can survive in the most extreme environments, from deserts to Arctic tundra.
Lichen needs so little to grow that you can even find some in solid rock.
Because lichen has no root system, lichen does not need soil and can grow on bare rock and places where nothing else can live.
Lichen breaks rock over time into soil.
The discs help lichens reproduce by releasing spores.
Lichens are mostly found on trees, rocks, and walls.
Oh, wow!
Now moving on to mushrooms.
Well, to start, mushrooms are a type of fungi just like mold.
Did you know that mushrooms and toadstools are actually different from each other? Toadstools refer to poisonous mushrooms specifically,
Underneath each mushrooms are gills.
like fish gills.
No, these gills are used to suspend spores when the mushroom becomes mature.
Some mushrooms fruit in rings, which is also the reason they can get their names. An example of a kind of mushroom that is like this is the fairy ring mushroom.
Mushrooms are put into groups.
There's the agaric family, where umbrella-shaped mushrooms go under. An example of an agaric mushroom is the honey mushroom.
There is the Boletalis, where the mushrooms have an easily detachable underside of the cap.
Only a few of the 70 to 80 species of poisonous mushrooms are actually deadly.
These deadly mushrooms have an identical look to another harmless edible mushroom. As we mentioned earlier, in the Amanita genus, there's the death cap mushroom.
A quick list of some of these mushrooms are
The web caps,
the autumn skullcap,
destroying angels.
and the deadly dapperling.
Now moving on to our interview. And how did you get into combining your love of foraging with conservation?
That's a great question. How do I answer that? I mean, I guess because I got into foraging through my love of ecology and the natural world, I just have always cared about conservation also. And so, yeah, that's just always on my mind for anything we're doing. You know, if it's native plants, then it's sort of either off limits, or I know that it's something that I need to be extra careful that we're gathering it sustainably. And then, yeah, things like the clamshells. To me, that's just common sense. We don't want to be just filling landfills with plastic. It sort of takes some of the fun out of it if I think about, bags and bags and bags of plastic that I'm creating every week. I've always just loved nature, and when I was a kid, I was into diving, free diving, and spearfishing. I grew up in San Diego, and I wanted to be a marine biologist. But I had a lot of people in my life who were saying marine biology it's going to be challenging and it's not going to pay very well. And so I was also really good at math and numbers, and so I studied engineering, and that was also interesting. I was good at it, and it was intellectually stimulating. And then through that I did industrial engineering, economics, and then got a job in economic consulting in Menlo Park. Actually.
Oh wow!
Cornerstone Research.
Yes.
Have you seen that building?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So that's where I worked for 8 years after I graduated college. But I just lived for spearfishing and mushroom hunting, which I'd been in spearfishing since I was 8 years old or something, 10 years old. But then I got into mushroom hunting when I moved to the Bay Area. My brother was at Cal, and the two of us started diving together, and then met people who were also, when the ocean was too rough in the winter, they'd go into the forest and pick mushrooms. So that's how I got into mushroom hunting. And it was kind of mushroom hunting for me was spearfishing that I could do all the time. Even when the ocean was rough, anywhere that I go, just a median strip, you could be looking for mushrooms everywhere, whereas spearfishing, you needed, it was cold, you could only be in the water for a couple hours, you had to drive a long way to get to a nice place, the conditions had to be right, it had to be a weekend. Mushroom hunting was I could go out after work and just kind of wander around the neighborhood and identify mushrooms and learn about it. So my brother and I got into it together that way. And that was how part of this is part of the point of this project is plastic waste. That's something we worry about a lot, because we deliver everything in these little clear clamshells. The whole industry does. But it just creates so much waste, and it feels crazy that you go out with a stack of clamshells and you pick something which is totally sustainable and put it in a little plastic clamshell, and the plastic clamshell lasts forever. So we've gone over to PLA, which is a plastic that's made from plants, and it breaks down, they decompose, and we also get them back from chefs. I can show you in here where we wash them. So in the garage we have frozen berries and spruce tips and all kinds of things.
Wow.
You can see my little crew yesterday just washed about 400 of these clamshells.
400.
Put them in front of the fan to
Wow.
dry them back out. Just trying to minimize our plastic footprint. And again, these ones will compose, unlike most plastic, which basically lasts for thousands of years or forever. These will eventually break down, and they go back to the soil.
Do you reuse the ones you give to the restaurants and take it back from them after?
Yeah, exactly. We ask them to hold on to them. We get maybe half of them back.
That's wonderful.
And then some of them are like, ruined or greasy, or we can't reuse it. But the other ones, we just sit out here with soap and sponges and wash them off. And we don't make back a lot of cost. We save. It's about break even. If we bought them new versus washing them, I would just prefer to be reusing the plastic as much as possible. I've thought about can we do something organic like paper or something else that's even more like these are compostable, but they only sort of break down in like an industrial facility. Eventually they'll break down naturally, but ideally it would be like paper or something. The problem is that breathes, and for flowers and greens you need like a really humid chamber, so it needs to be sealed or almost sealed to kind of seal in that humidity to keep everything crisp.
Mr. Bryan, do you collect medicinal mushrooms as well?
There's a lot of sort of medicinal mushrooms are getting very popular right now, but a lot of them don't have much science behind it. These actually have like dozens of studies showing that they have immune boosting properties. They've actually been shown to help fight cancer, which is incredible.
Wow.
So a lot of people, when they get cancer, they get on chemotherapy, they'll also start taking turkey tail mushroom, and they've seen better outcomes. I think it helps your immune system deal with the chemotherapy, which makes you stronger overall. And this is like an awesome mushroom, and you can eat these raw. You can just like honestly pull it off and chew it like gum.
So these are one of the mushrooms you can eat raw?
Yeah, but it really doesn't have much culinary value. I don't know anyone using it culinarily. It's kind of fibrous and bland. It tastes sort of like a piece of wood. But it's medicinal and really good for you. So
Have you seen the turkey tail mushrooms anywhere else in your backyard?
actually there's a wooden chair that we put out on our deck because we were like, we need to get this chair out of the house, and it's now been rained on a bunch, and it's just like, I don't know if it does right now, but in previous years the whole thing has gone off with turkey tail. They're kind of they're indiscriminate. This is just a piece of tan oak, one of the native oaks around here, but it grows on a lot of different types of wood.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bryan, and we hope you listeners enjoyed this episode.
Also, please check out our Instagram called @DotPotatoSisters to learn more about upcoming episodes. Please write any feedback about what you thought of this episode in the comments below, and like and subscribe. Bye!